Hello, how's it hanging? It is currently the third week of November. It has stopped raining, the sun is out, and everything is cold and crispy. So let's go and see what mushrooms are out there. I am going to get straight into it, as I always do, but I just need a moment of your time for a quick ad break. Thank you, appreciate you all. If you like smelling good and you care about what you put on your skin, then this might interest you. I've partnered with Wild, once again, who are a sustainable toiletries brand, and they create delicious smelling refillable products. So I switched to Wild back in July after trying various different natural based, aluminium free deodorant brands over the years, and it has been working really well for me. Some of my favourite things about Wild is that you can pick the case and then you can easily order refills on a subscription. And there's loads of scents to choose from, even some that men would like. And at the moment I've been using Wildflower Bloom, which is a lovely floral scent. And I've just gotten the honey and cactus flower one, which actually might be my new favourite. With other brands, I've noticed that the scent just did not last long and I didn't feel fresh for very long either. But these ones honestly keep you feeling fresh for ages. The scent lasts for a long time and it doesn't affect my skin at all. And I've got fairly sensitive skin. Lastly, everything is plastic free, which is amazing because we seriously need to abolish plastic. It happens to be that time of the year where discounts are a bit higher, so if you want to try Wild, then use code FLORAFUNGA2025 for 33% off, and I'll put a QR code on the screen, or alternatively there will be a link in the description. And that is all. Cheers! Despite the very consistent rain that we've had for the last 2 weeks, there isn't really many mushrooms around, which is kind of surprising, but then again, the last time that I went out and looked properly, which was last Sunday on a foray, everything was very soggy and everything was decomposing. So maybe that's just all settling in to the ground. And now that we've got the cold snap, which has just come about in the last couple of days, then maybe the colder seasoned mushrooms are going to come out now that that rain has soaked into the ground and it's a bit more chilly. We are now approaching one of my favourite logs. Well, actually it's 2 whole ash trees here. 2 absolutely huge beech trees. But together they host so many different types of fungi. I'll probably say this all the time about other beech trees, but this is one of my favourite ones because it does have a superb display of different fungus. There's lots of orange crusty blobs and it's looking like the earlier fruiting stage of Asterium species. So you might have heard of hairy curtain crust as being named one of turkey tail's lookalikes. And here it is in its masses. And you'll probably find turkey tail growing alongside it, because I certainly have before, because turkey tail does like beech. There are a few oysters on here, not many, but a couple. And they are the grey or winter oyster. The names are kind of interchangeable. Like some sources will say winter oyster, some will say grey. But I mean, they don't strictly grow in winter. You can see them in summer as well. Even though there's not many toadstool or edible mushrooms out towards the end of November, I love it because it's when all the jelly type fungi come out. These ones aren't actually physically a jelly fungus, but this is jelly rot. It's called Flebia something. But yeah, it's known as the jelly rot. And it's just a really pretty fungus, to be honest. That's the underside there. And that is the top. And I've never seen them quite this big before, but it's a peachy, pinky kind of colour, and as they get bigger, they're a bit more pale. I just think it's really pretty. It's not considered edible. I don't think it's poisonous, but it's not on the list of edible mushrooms. It's been a super wet November, and I got some wellies just in time, so I went for some muck boots in the end, because everyone was saying how comfy they are, and they are definitely comfortable. This is my first time wearing them out. And I got some mushroom mittens from a gift shop in the Lake District. How do you tell the difference between this year's birch polypores and last year's birch polypores? Can you tell? Some people might think the brown ones are the old ones and the white ones are fresh, but actually it's the other way around. Oh my god, that was gross. Oh, looks like there's eggs under there. I think that's like a slime mould or something. But yeah, the white ones are last year's. They quite often have green on as well, which tells you they're old. There's plenty of birch polypore out there, so get your hands on some. It's starting to harden up now, which isn't a big deal, but you don't want to be picking them when they're like rock solid. As they get older and harder, they're like really difficult to cut into. And what most of us do is chop them up, dehydrate them, and then keep them in a jar and then use them whenever you need them. So yeah, you want to get them when they're soft, ideally. That one down there looks a bit softer. It's got a funny growth in the middle, and then two coming out the side. The birch polypore grows exclusively on silver birch, so you won't find it on anything else. But you will find other mushrooms growing on the silver birch. But the birch polypore is pretty distinctive. It's a fairly large bracket. You'll normally see quite a few of them growing up the branch or the tree. If you have a look around, they look like little spaceships. Whew. The underside of the birch polypore is white, like this. And the pores are so very tiny that you can barely see them. But if you just have a good look close up, you should be able to see the tiny little holes. Also, it does have a really strong smell. I don't know how people would describe the smell of this, but it's just generally strong. So the birch polypore has quite a few different medicinal properties. It's probably most well known as an antiviral and an antiseptic when it's applied topically. So a lot of you have probably seen when someone would cut and peel the underside off and wrap it around their finger. That's like a lot of foraging instructors' favourite party tricks. So they'll peel that off and then wrap it around, and it makes like a little bandage. And yeah, it's antibacterial and styptic too, so it can staunch bleeding. I have in the past made a video purely about medicinal mushrooms that you can find in the UK. I'll probably remake it this year and just make it better. But yeah, if you want to know a bit more about this, then you can go over and watch that one. It's really lovely to see the return of the forest streams, because the whole of summer they were all completely dried up. Like all throughout the forest, all the streams were bone dry. So I'm sure some of the animals must have suffered through that. But luckily we get a well-balanced amount of rain. As much as I like to complain about it, we really do need the rain, obviously. This is the perfect little patch of woodland for mushrooms. So you've got coniferous trees over there, some very young pines, and then you've got the broadleaf trees around this side, oak, beech, silver birch. So there's a huge variety here. I wouldn't have seen them unless I bent down, and I was making my way to a spot that I can normally rely on for mushrooms, but I thought there's probably something that I'm missing out on if I go the same way. So came a different way, and I've just found this amazing little patch, and I've spotted 3 mushroom species already. In this particular spot around here, there's a lot of hedgehog mushrooms, but more of the terracotta hedgehog actually, as opposed to the common wood hedgehog. So the common wood hedgehog are like the big, pale, chunky ones, which are the ones that I prefer. I don't like the terracotta ones so much because normally they're pretty soggy and flimsy, but these ones are nice and chunky and firm. So I think I will collect a few of these because that's what's available. And I haven't actually taken home any hedgehogs yet. So far this month, that is. I did have some last month. I can see a couple of beasts over there awaiting their fate. I'm coming. Oh. It's so thick. Isn't that stunning? Hedgehog mushrooms are really common, and like I said, they grow in big troops or rings. So there's more, they go all the way over there, and there's plenty more around these woodlands. You should always leave plenty of mushrooms for the wildlife. Deer definitely enjoy these. I've seen these with big chomps taken out of them, maybe squirrels as well. If I ever come across a solitary mushroom or a really small group, then I just leave it, because you might as well leave them to mature and release their spores, and then hopefully produce even more for the next year. But like I said, you don't need to worry too much with hedgehogs because they're so common and abundant. But yeah, even then I don't pick them all, I still leave plenty. And here is my little collection of hedgehog mushrooms so far. So there's a few rings around here. They tend to grow in quite big rings or trooping lines, and I've put them side by side here so you can see the difference. So that's the common hedgehog or the wood hedgehog, and that is the terracotta hedgehog. So they are generally a lot smaller and more stalky. The common hedgehog is shorter and stumpier with a thicker stipe. And with age and moisture, they can turn more orangey, a bit more peachy terracotta in the spines, and a darker yellowy peachy cream on the top. But when they're nice and fresh, they look like this. And as I said in my last vlog, the previous one to this is probably your easiest and most foolproof edible mushroom to forage as a beginner. Wow, so I've only ever seen one of these once before, and it was on a foray, so I didn't find it personally. But this is a truffle club, and it's actually a huge one. I'm not going to dig it up because I don't really have a reason to. It's not an edible, so yeah, we'll just leave it. But down under there is a truffle. I'm pretty sure it's a deer truffle, and this is a truffle club. So this fungus here is growing out of a truffle, but they're two separate species. So yeah, this is a parasitic fungus because it is growing out of the truffle. But yeah, this is or was classified as a type of cordyceps. How camouflage are winter chanterelles? Well, this much camouflage. Can you see any of them from this height? I am actually bending over. Standing full height at 5'7", and they are pretty damn difficult to spot. What about now? Can you see them? There is so many around here. They really do grow in great numbers once they get going. There's my little patch, and there's still some younger ones growing in there. In this spot around here, they really like to grow along these banks. So this dips down here. I'm not sure what it is or why it's like that, but there's mossy banks either side, and they like growing along those banks. And then down there is a water source, and I have been told that chanterelle like to grow near a river or a water source. And it's all beech trees around here, which is one of their favourite trees. But then again, I also find them amongst the pine plantations, which don't necessarily have a water source nearby. So yeah, they are mycorrhizal with a few different trees, whereas some mushrooms can just be strictly associated with one species of tree. So generally chanterelle are an easy beginner's mushroom as well. Not quite as easy as the hedgehog, but still pretty easy to identify, with their wrinkly forking veins instead of true gills, which have quite a waxy, rubbery feel to them. And the winter chanterelle, unlike the common just yellow chanterelle, the Cantharellus cibarius, these have a dimple or belly button type thing in the cap, and it follows all the way down the stipe, so the stipe is hollow. See, I've just split it in half, and that dimple follows all the way through, and it's just easily split this mushroom into two. That's what makes the winter ones pretty easy to identify. It's that hollowness and the colour of them as well. Pale brown with a pale yellow stipe, and the wrinkly folds as well, not proper gills. These mushrooms, the hedgehogs and the winter chanterelles, are pretty reliable mushrooms. I can find them every year without fail in the same places. They're not too fussy. As long as there's been a bit of rain across October into November, they always make an appearance, unlike others, which can be a lot more fussy. For example, the last 3 or 4 years, boletes haven't had a very good year in general in my usual spots anyway. And then this year was like the craziest bumper year that any of us have ever seen. So yeah, they're a bit more fussy. But yeah, hedgehogs, winter chanterelles always just seem to be here. These little buggers over here though are a bit more fussy. I am very happy to see them though, because I just knew that they were going to be here. Same time as last year, same conditions, and they're always nice and big around this little tree. And I haven't taken home any of these chanterelle this year because I haven't really found many, to be honest. I didn't find any all summer, only a few last month in October, and I didn't pick them because there was only a couple. Whereas here, they grow just all around this little tree. So I'm just going to take a couple of these to add to my bounty. Look at that, that is so beautiful. These always remind me of flowers, and especially like this in a cluster. They're like a little bouquet of flowers. Again, these are pretty easy to identify, as with the winter chanterelle. The only main lookalike for these is the false chanterelle, which is a lot more orangey. With a false chanterelle, if you break them open, they're orangey inside, whereas with a true chanterelle, the flesh is white. They've got these decurrent false gills, so decurrent meaning running down the stem somewhat. They smell super pleasant when you haven't got a blocked nose, like I have. Some people describe it as apricot-like. Not everyone agrees with that, because the thing with smell is it can be quite subjective. Different people smell different things, but in general it does have a very pleasant smell. It's a prize edible, and it is in my top 3, like one of my absolute favourites. It's just got the right texture, lovely, slightly sweet, nutty flavour, and yeah, they're just delicious. There's plenty of buttercaps around, which is this one here. They are noted as edible in some books, but they're not a choice edible. They're not particularly great, apparently. They are very abundant though on the forest floor, so you know, if you were desperate and you needed something to cook up out in the woods, then that's an option. And next to them I just spotted this Tremella mecentrica, witch's butter. It does have a few nicknames. There's also a black jelly fungus known as witch's butter. So that's why it's best to learn your Latin names, because nicknames can vary, especially from country to country. So if you want to be on the same grounds as someone else and know what you're talking about, then knowing the Latin is very helpful. After saying in the beginning that there's not a lot of mushrooms around, I certainly stand corrected. It just takes me like an hour or so of walking to like get in the flow and get focused on what I'm looking for. And like once you spot one, you then can really like hone in on finding more. Definitely got enough now. I'm very guilty in the past of picking too much and wasting some of it. So I'm probably just going to make a mushroom pie. I like to keep it simple. I don't have a big kitchen, so I don't have the space to be, you know, too creative and too messy with things. But I love a good mushroom pie, so that's probably what I'm going to do. Also, you've probably noticed I don't carry around a lovely designer wicker basket, foraging basket. I just take out these Tesco and Sainsbury's
grocery bags because they are just really practical. They allow plenty of air to get to the mushrooms as you're out walking for a few hours, because quite often if you take a basket, things get squashed on top of each other and get soggy. But this is nice and airy and spacious, and I've got a few of these. And there's also potential for some of the spores to drop out as you're walking along. I mean, the same thing goes for a basket, but these are a lot more breathable.
On my way here today, I stopped in a coffee shop to just grab a coffee. I'd actually ordered a click and collect, but for some reason they didn't process it, so I had to stand there while they got all the bits ready, and it was really busy. But I was just standing there patiently, like looking at my emails on my phone, and I was next to this lady and her husband, I assume, and she was just like watching me, looking at my phone, and then she gets her phone out and she like hands it towards me. She's like, "Look at this," and it's a picture of her dog just like laying on her carpet in front of the fireplace, with its face like in its paws. She was like, "Look how cute he looks," and I was like, "Oh yeah, isn't that lovely?" And it was just random. Like, you don't really have interactions with, you know, strangers like that very often, and it was just really sweet. She was so happy to show me. And her husband was just there like looking at his phone and a newspaper, and he wasn't paying much attention. And it just made me think, like, I am very guilty of spending too much time on my phone. A lot of the time it's like to do with content and stuff, and just me learning new things, because I use like social media, YouTube, for watching, you know, videos about plants and mushrooms and stuff. But like, if you're going out in public for a coffee with your partner or a friend, and you're just like there reading a book or you're on your phone, not engaging in conversation, then it's a bit shit, isn't it, for the other person? Like, you might as well just stay at home, sit on the sofa and look at your phone, because what's the point of going out if you're not going to be present with the person that you're with? So yeah, that was just a thought. But I mean, I'm sure the husband has seen pictures of his own dog a million times, and that lady just wanted to show a random stranger. But yeah, I get it though. Sometimes we're just tired and we don't have much to say. Like, I have days where I just don't want to speak all day, and then I have other days where I'm like spouting off all day long, and I'm probably quite annoying. But yeah, I do get it. But I mean, if you don't know what to talk about in a conversation, then just throw a random fact out there. Like, did you know it's easier to peel a banana from the bottom rather than the top where the stalk is? Bet you didn't know that. But no, I'm joking. That's a bit of a boring fact. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm not really one to take advice from when it comes to making conversations, because it's never been my strong point. Like, I don't do small talk. Like, we can talk about interesting stuff, but small talk, I'd rather just not speak. Also, it looks like I'm going grey on top, but actually it's just my natural blonde hair coming through. In the winter it comes through kind of dark, like greyish, mousy blonde. But I haven't grown my hair out in a very long time. I love dyeing my hair. It's like a source of dopamine for me. Like, the seasons change and I want to change the colour of my hair, how I do my makeup. That's just what I'm like. But yeah, I mean, last time I had my hair all naturally grown out, I was probably like 12, and it's sort of like a golden blonde with little bits of ginger in, you know. My dad's like 100% ginger, redhead. My mum's like more of a blondie, strawberry blonde naturally. And on that note, I'm going to end the vlog. I can't promise when there'll be another mushroom one, because it depends what there is out and about, so I'm not going to overpromise things and then not produce. I might even do a Christmas crafty nature type vlog and show you what little bits I make for Christmas, if anyone's interested in seeing that. If not, you don't have to watch it. Anyway, signing off. Thank you for being here. Bye.